Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And we are live from our respective one bedroom apartments. Uh, a little inside joke. We've been doing this for a little bit. We do this for fun. We know it's not gonna be anything big or whatever. So any views we get, we appreciate, but it's more about having fun for us. But we got our first very negative review on a post. I think it was our last episode for just one of the guys. And the person said, "Oh, this is so boring." That's fine. You can have that opinion. Two middle-aged men, appropriate. On a Zoom meeting, also appropriate. Being boring, matter of opinion. From their respective one-bedroom apartments. Okay, first off, that was the only part of it that bugged me. First off, I live in, close to Los Angeles. You live close to San Francisco. Jesus, what would a one bedroom apartment cost in these, locations? I mean, that's nothing to sniff at. Anyway, but we both have houses. I've had a house of mine since the mid 90s, and I know you have a couple, and I also have a condo. So it was like, all right, that one kind of pissed me off. But anyway, I just had to address it, and yeah,
All publicity is good publicity, right? That cracks me up, to be honest. It's very, very, very funny.
I thought so too. On a much brighter note, since we did our last episode, you added another digit to your age. So how's it feel to be old as dirt plus one?
Yeah, old as dirt plus ones pretty much sums it up. That's just another year. It really doesn't bother me too much.
As long as we're above ground, brother, that's all that matters.
That's it, man. That's it.
So we decided to talk about one of our favorite subjects. I think everything we do is our favorite subject, but this is guitar solos of the 80s. And there are some iconic guitar solos of the 80s. You might think of Beat It by Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, and Crazy Train. We're going to talk about some of the guitar solos that we feel are underrated and don't necessarily get either the acknowledgement or the respect that they deserve. Um, because there were so many phenomenal guitar players in the 80s. Lou, do you have any particular guitar players that were your favorites in the 80s?
Yeah, I do. And to kick it off, it's actually the first one that I'm going to mention. Extremely underrated guitar player, Key Marcello, or Marcello, I'm sorry, uh, of Europe. And the song that I'm going to call out the first one is Superstitious. The solo is just amazing. It just soars. I can't explain it more than that. Just the phrasing of it, and he's fast at the appropriate moments, and he's an amazing guitar player all around. I think he's very, very underrated. I think that solo is super, super underrated.
Apparently not to us because I had it on my list too, you asshole. Uh, so fuck. All right. So no, I agree with you. It's just such a beautiful solo. The technique is incredible. I know the sad thing is, right? A lot of people are like dismissed Europe as how they're just a hair metal band. They're a bunch of pretty boys. I know I've talked about this before, but I saw their first concert ever in America, which took place at the Warfield in San Francisco. And this was Key's first stint with the band. He had replaced John Norum, another incredible musician and guitar player. Um, and I remember Joey Tempest said something along the lines of, "Oh, we just want solid guitar playing." And I'm like, solid guitar playing does not replace a John Norum. I don't know what the hell he's thinking, whatever. And then he started playing and I was like, wow, this guy, okay, so he can mimic the solos of John Norum really well. But what really blew my mind is they did a version of Flight of the Bumblebee and he nailed it. It was so incredible. And we're just sitting there like with our mouths wide open, going, huh? So love this solo. It's so good. God damn it. It was on my list too.
Sorry, man.
I was almost like, I got to get this one out quick because Lewis is probably gonna, might get that might be the one he'll get. Like, nah, there's so many. What the hell are the odds? You
I,
suck.
I, I have the feeling there's going to be another one that we step on each other with, but we'll see.
Crap. Now I got to figure that out. Well, the first one that I'm gonna go with um, is a band that I actually did see live as well back in the day, and that's Rat. Warren DeMartini does not get the credit I feel he deserves. And there's a lot of there's he's been brought up a lot lately. I don't know if you've been following it, where I guess Don Dawkins, talked about how he felt if he had selected Warren DeMartini to be his guitar players, that Dawkins would have gotten a lot further than they would have with George Lynch, which, I think is really stupid, but, that's Don Dawkins for you. Um, Not to discredit Warren DeMartini, again, amazing guitar player. But the solo I'm thinking about, and I wish it went on longer, and I wish I wish I was looking to see if they ever released it and let it go longer, and it's the outro solo for Back for More. Like, if
Okay.
you listen to it, like, that's Ingve level ripping. He is killing it on that. Like, and I don't remember hearing him play that kind of solo and anything else that Rat ever did, but he's just shredding like crazy. And like if you just played that without the vocals going over it, you wouldn't know who did it, and it's incredible. I just wish it wasn't the outro solo so I could hear the entire thing because it's insane.
I'll have to go back and listen to that. Warren DeMartini is amazing. I got a real quick story about him. It's not that big of a story, but there was this time that I was actually working late at night. Where there was some code release going on, and I was working with this other guy that lived in LA, and he was working with me to try and get this code release done. And he was really trying to get off of the call really quickly. And I'm like, hey, listen, we had the schedule, we had to do this. He's like, no, man, you don't understand. I've got a music studio and I've got Warren DeMartini. He's down there, in my room, and we're jamming and stuff. And I'm like, what? You're kidding me. He's like, no, no, you know who he is, right? I'm like, yeah, I know who he is. So I felt bad for the guy. I still kept him on the phone until we were able to get things done. But yeah, it was sort of funny that this guy was actually jamming with Warren DeMartini. This is after his heyday, obviously.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, he's elected never to really, last few years, well, many, many years, there's always been talk of the remaining members of Rat. Obviously, Robin Crosby passed away many years ago. Reuniting and touring, and he won't do it. And you don't really hear about him doing music too much anymore. Kind of like Jakey Lee for a long time was out of the public eye, but my God. And not only that is a great guitar player, but he had some of the coolest designs. His Charvel designs were amazing. And you can still go on their Charvel website and buy a lot of the designs that he used today. So,
Very cool. Very, very good pick. Yeah, Warren DeMartini was one that I did not think of, and I'll have to go back and listen to that. The next one I've got, again, I'm pretty positive that would have been one on your list, but maybe not. And he's also somebody that sort of faded into the woodwork after his band broke up, White Lion, and the song is called When the Children Cry. And that solo, it's not very fast, but my God, it's got so much emotion in it, and it's just so beautiful, and it fits the song so, so well. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'd heard somebody describe his soloing as like a song within a song, and this is a perfect example of that. Just amazing.
good call. I actually forgot, to include Vito Bratta on my list, but that is a great call. Um, it's kind of unfair, right? I think when he started, he was unfairly compared to an Eddie Van Halen clone. Um, you know, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if you heard about Sammy Hagar is going out and playing some of the Van Halen stuff this year with Joe Satriani on guitar. And of
Oh,
course,
no, I
it's going to
hadn't.
be his era. And I forgot what song they played, and I haven't listened to it. Full disclosure, I haven't listened to that version. But Satriani actually, I mean, this is Joe Satriani, came out and said, "I'm really sorry. I know it didn't sound right. It didn't sound enough like Eddie. I need to work on it." He's like trying to get the tones right, and he's like, "I'm gonna get there," but it was not up to a level that I thought it should have been, especially to be in tribute for Eddie, which shows you how hard it is to play the Eddie Van Halen stuff. I always thought, and I've heard things that he has issues with his hands, and so I don't know, but I always felt like you could have pulled him in, and he's probably the closest we would have gotten to that exact feel. Which I mean, I don't view him as a clone, like you said. When the Children Cry is an amazing solo, very different from what you would expect for an Eddie Van Halen clone, right? But I think he could. I think he could. If his health is up to it, I think he could do those parts, and I think he'd play amazing. And I would love to hear what he would do.
Yeah, I think I heard the same thing about him having issues with his wrists, and if that's the case, that's very unfortunate. I do have to admit that when he first came out, that was my immediate association was this is just an Eddie Van Halen clone. It wasn't until many years later that I really sort of started listening to it in a different frame of mind. It's like he uses a lot of Eddie's techniques, but the completely different beast. Very, very different the way that he plays.
Yeah, I one of the bands, White Lion, obviously, that I wish I had seen. Never got to see them. I remember right after they broke up, Mike Tramp came and played. I think it was I saw him at the One Step Beyond, and he had new music out. I knew he was gonna play that, but I figured he'd throw in a couple White Lion songs, and I'd make do. He didn't play any, and I was so pissed off. And I remember these two guys in front of the guitar players kept yelling "Vito Bratta" at the guitarist, and it did it did go over really well, as you can expect. But yeah, Vito Bratta, what a player. Um,
Indeed.
the next one for me, for you, I don't think you'd steal this one. Gary Moore's G-Force. I don't even know if you've ever heard this. This came out in 1980. It's called White Knuckles Rockin' and Rollin'. White Knuckles slash Rockin' and Rollin'. And White Knuckles is the intro, and it starts out just a little bit bluesy, like just for the beginning, to kind of make you think it's gonna be something else, and then he just rips. It's this killer solo. And not a lot of people know about it. You think of Gary Moore, a lot of people think of the solo from Shape of Things, which is also incredible. But I remember this album came out with very little fanfare. And the only reason I became aware of it is the record exchange in Walnut Creek. They used to have a number you'd call up every week. They'd change the recording and they'd talk about new releases. And at the beginning of the recording, they'd play a little bit of one of their new releases. Something kids today could not understand is it was in the 415 area code, which is the same area code at that time for us. So I'm
Right.
like, okay, this is not a long distance call. It's 415. Well, it was a long distance call for us. And of course, I called that stupid thing a million times to hear Gary Moore on it and over and over. And then my mom gets a phone bill and she's like, "What the hell is this? Who are you calling?" I'm like, 415 isn't, it's not a long distance. She goes, "Yeah, it is. That's Walnut Creek. That doesn't count." And think I think the phone bill, me calling it back and forth enough to hear Gary Moore multiple times, I could have bought the damn album. Oh well, sorry. And eventually I did. But yeah, check it out. It's on YouTube. It's just an amazing, amazing guitar solo. So much feel. again, this came out in 1980, so you're not gonna have, there it gets what some people might say a little bit sloppy at times in the beginning, but I think it's incredible. And Gary Moore was an amazing, amazing talent, and this was like the first thing of his that I really, picked up on.
Yeah, anytime they include Gary Moore in any guitar, anything, it's awesome because he was indeed an amazing guitar player. Even in his blues phase, he was just absolutely amazing. And he, to me, is one of those unsung heroes that a lot of people don't realize what a talent that he was.
Yeah. And if you ever had the good fortune of seeing him live, and I had the good fortune of seeing him live one time, what a talent. It was amazing.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. I heard that he stopped touring because he didn't like flying. My friend Russ was telling me that he wouldn't tour to the United States anymore after some point in time. But I'd really have to look into that further.
Yeah, he was oh, I saw him at Wolfgang's, and if I remember correctly, I think that was the last show they ever had at Wolfgang's because I don't know what caused it, but they had a fire and Wolfgang's burned down after he performed there. It had nothing to do with Gary Moore. He was hot as could be, but it had nothing to do with that. And I was just laughing when I was in that crowd because you looked around and every heavy metal guitar player in the Bay Area was there. Like Gary Holt, I think the guy, Rob from Death Angel. There were so many guitar players I remember seeing going, oh, that's so and so, that's so and so, all there to check out Gary Moore. And that was a great, great venue, but burned down afterwards and never reopened. So sad. But I got to see Gary Moore and I got to see the last show ever at Wolfgang's.
Very cool. Very cool on both counts. The next call I'm going to make is going way back for Bon Jovi, and the song is called Runaway. And I had known this a little bit before I'd heard this, that it wasn't Richie Sambora that actually plays that guitar solo.
No.
At the time that the song that was written and recorded, John Bon Jovi didn't have a band together, so it was all studio musicians. So a gentleman by the name of Tim Pierce was actually the one that recorded that solo. And I've always thought that that solo is a really, really cool solo. It just fits the song really, really well. It's not like over the top, flamboyant. It's just it's well crafted for the song. I did a little bit of research on the guy, and I guess he played on Belinda Carlisle's "Heaven on Earth" as well. A bunch of
Wow.
other stuff that he did, but yeah, top-notch guitarist. I mean, if anybody's ever heard Belinda Carlisle's album, that album is just it's amazing. The production, everything about it is awesome. But anyway, so yeah, that's my other pick, and one of my favorite Bon Jovi songs.
That's a good pick. And again, I knew it wasn't Richie Sambora. I didn't know the name of the guitar player who actually did it, but I mean that's one of the signs of the great guitar solos, right? I mean, you can hear it in your head and you can kind of hum it, and he did a fantastic job on it. I wonder why, um, you know, he wouldn't have been considered for the band. Kind of interesting, maybe visually he didn't match. I know, that they got Sambora. It's kind of funny you mentioned Belinda Carlisle's album. Oh God, I forgot the name of the song. The last time I saw her perform, she was introducing this song, and oh man, I'm drawing a blank on what song it was, but she said that the guitar solo on the album was played by George Harrison, and it's
Oh, the slide
live.
guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slide guitar solo played by George Harrison, of course, of the Beatles. And I'm like, she's like, so, it's not like he has big shoes to fill, she says to her guitar player. But yeah, that's another great one. I should have could have thought about that one too.
Leave a
Linda
light on for
Carlisle
me.
getting
That's the name of
George
the song.
Harrison.
Yeah,
Uh,
leave a light on for
wow.
me. That's the name of the song.
What?
Leave a light on for me. That's the name of the
Yeah,
song.
that's it. So, oh look, my next pick was going to be Europe. You suck. So this album came out in 1983. This was kind of their only hit, and it's the songs remembered well, but I just don't feel like enough credit's given to the solo. And I'm talking about Vandenberg's self-titled debut album. course, the guitar player being Adrian Vandenberg. And it actually went to number 39, the single, and I'm talking about Burning Heart.
Nice.
Um, the thing I love about this is the way they did it is, you have him starting off with, it's almost flamenco-ish, right? An acoustic guitar solo before he goes into the heavy riffs. Lots of sustain, a lot of bent notes, just beautiful. And like, it's a ballad and he didn't overplay on it, but I just don't feel like that solo gets kind of the credit that it should be receiving, especially since he kind of melded the two influences, with the kind of flamenco-ish guitar. It's not a lot of times you hear a band that would do, yes, you'll sometimes hear an acoustic guitar solo or an electric, obviously, is more frequent, but to meld the two is kind of unusual, especially for that time frame. And I love his playing. I love what Adrian Vandenberg does, and yeah, so that was one of my picks for just a truly underrated guitar solo from the 80s.
Yeah, really, really good pick. Adrian Vandenberg is another one of those guitar players that I think just doesn't get in general enough credit for his talent. So yeah, excellent pick. That's a great song just all around.
One and in addition, right? He wrote all the songs. He played the guitars. Did you know he also painted the album covers of the other
No,
albums? I
no.
don't know if he designed the logo or not. I have to double check. But you look at the Heading for a Storm and oh God, I forgot what the second one was, or Heading for a Storm and Alibi. That's it. He actually, yeah, if you look at it, he painted the album covers. And Vandenberg
Wow.
just released a new album, and their cover is very similar in style to those early album covers. And he painted that, or was the artist on that as well. So, man, what a talent!
Amazing, man. Amazing. He wrote you like a letter, right? You had like sent him something and then he wrote you a letter and then I think he forgot that he wrote you a letter and he wrote you another one or something. I remember something along those
Yeah,
lines.
so back in the day, a buddy of mine had created a magazine or a fanzine called Heavy Metal Onslaught. And he only did 3 issues, but it's kind of crazy. Like, it's still remembered today. I was watching a documentary recently about I think it was the LA thrash metal scene. They talked about the importance of fanzines, and they actually showed the cover of Heavy Metal Onslaught and that. And it's like,
Nice.
how the hell do these people remember that? And you gotta remember, my buddy was in high school. I remember him being on the phone at my house because he lived with me for a little bit. He was on the phone with Lars Ulrich to talk about Master of Puppets for his magazine. And so I had written, he let me, I did some early articles and things like that. And I thought I would do something about Vandenberg. So I wrote him a letter with, a list of questions and asked for a photo. And sure enough, he sent it. He answered all the questions, handwritten. He's like, I don't usually do this, but I really liked your letter, blah blah, and sent me a photo. And yeah, you're right. He forgot that he had done that and went ahead and sent me a second one. And I
That's
think
awesome.
I somewhere in this house, yes, this house, not my single, 1 bedroom apartment. Somewhere in the house, I still have those letters. I know for a fact I've never gotten rid of them. So it's super cool. And the sad thing is he's appearing this weekend at NAMM, and I should have gone. I wish I had gone to see him, and finally would have met him in person, but didn't work out.
I'd love to go to NAMM one of these days.
I was talking to a guy yesterday at the concert, and he was there for NAMM. He was in there from Phoenix, and he was saying that ever since COVID happened, they've opened it up. That if you pay $100, you can go. So next year, Lou,
All right. All right.
next
I'm down.
year we'll go to NAMM.
Sounds good.
Better
All
NAMM
right.
than Nom.
Uh, this next one is I found it interesting. I spend way, way too much time on things like Instagram, and I go through and I'll see people that are covering other people's solos. the neat thing about that is that I listen to them from a different perspective and go, wow, that's actually a really cool solo that I never noticed. This one song is got one of those solos. It's Heart Alone, and the guitar player was Howard Leese. The album came out in 1987 called Bad Animal. And I think I'd known about this sometime before that that's actually not an original tune. It was originally done by this band called I-10. Um, so the lead guitar lick is played by again Howard Leese, and I guess Howard Leese is with Paul Rogers, and I think as of late with Bad Company. Great solo. Again, it's not super flashy. It's a very good fit for the song. It's very tasty, and again, it's one of those things that you can recall in your head, as you had mentioned, just by thinking about it. So great solo.
I can't think of it at all. I'm like trying to. I'm sitting here going, how do I know the song, and I can't hear the solo in my head. And I've heard the song a million times.
Well, I'm not gonna hum it, but yeah, it's tasty. Like I said, not flashy, but it's tasty.
All right. I can't remember it, so I don't have a lot to add to it. He was with Heart for a very long time. Um,
Yeah.
I think on this album, I think it was Ron, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, Nevison or Nevison, who also produced some UFO albums as well. He was a producer on that album, and he was meeting with Kiss, talk about being the producer on their next album. And I guess he played them alone. And Gene Simmons was unimpressed. He goes, "Well, be unimpressed, but that's gonna be the next. That's gonna go to number one. I promise you." And Gene Simmons was like, "Yeah, right." It went to number one, and they hired him to do their album. So, little Kiss trivia or Heart trivia, however you want to, or Ron Nevison trivia. I don't know, but yeah, I wish I could remember that solo. He also, it's so memorable. I can't remember a thing about it. Um, he also performs a lot in Vegas. Hint, hint. With the not Rock of Ages. Oh God, Raiding the Rock Vault. So there is a show in Vegas called Raiding the Rock Vault where they have a lot of these artists that will perform classic, rock tunes, but it's all actual, they say all rock stars. I've seen them perform once before. I had a great time with it. Robin McCauley of Michael Schenker Group, or Macaulay Schenker Group when he was in it, performed with them. I saw him with Rowan Robertson, formerly of Dio. But really great stuff. And they had, God, they had this female singer. I wish I could remember her name. That was absolutely amazing too. But good times. Oh, and the bass player was Phil Suzanne, who performed with Ozzy Osbourne when I saw him, which I thought was really cool because he's probably the only person for whatever reason. And I kind of joked about it, and he wouldn't say anything. I was like, "Hey, I said credit to you. You're the only person Ozzy Osbourne's ever given a writing credit to." Uh, he didn't give him to Jakey Lee, but he gave him to Phil. So he didn't tell me the secret on that one. But anyway, I can't remember the solo, so I'm gonna move on.
Real
Um,
quick, real quick. I think I might have messed up. I think I might have meant to say "What About Love." I'm sort of going through my head, and I can't think of a solo for that song either. So
okay, moving on. Um, whew. This guy doesn't get enough credit. This came out in 1983. Loudness, Akira Takasaki. I always felt like he was unfairly given they kind of said he was a ripoff of everybody, which really sucked. But I actually loved Loudness better when they sang in Japanese. I had their Japanese albums. This came out in 1983, The Law of Devil's Land, appropriately titled Speed. And it's one of those things that check it out. He does so many different techniques in it, and the solo is absolutely amazing. Doesn't get enough credit. So, how to give Akira Takasaki some love.
it's interesting because I ran across one of their tunes. again on Instagram, and yeah, I don't have any of their music, but that God, I don't remember the name of the tune. Rock and Roll Crazy Nights, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff.
I liked them better when they sang in Japanese. It just seemed like their stuff didn't translate as well to English. So I'm learning to appreciate it more.
Awesome. I'm gonna race through this last one here because we're sort of running short on time. I'm gonna go for Power Station, Some Like It Hot, Andy Taylor. The reason that I like this solo is because it opened my eyes to what a great guitar player that Andy Taylor is. I'd never seen that kind of guitar playing on any of the Duran Duran tunes that he was on, obviously. And yeah, it's a great solo. Again, it fits the song very well, and again, it opened my eyes to sort of what a talent that he was. That was released in 1985. Obviously, Robert Palmer was sort of the lead guy in that, and I think it might have been their only album.
I don't remember. I thought maybe they had two, but
Was it?
again, it's another one I can't remember the solo, so I might just move on. But I do like Andy Taylor. His solo stuff was great. I might lie. Uh, Let Me Die Young, I think was the other one. Good stuff. I got to throw this in there because again, somebody that doesn't get any recognition at all, and it's definitely on the heavier side. Toxic on their Think This album, which came out in 1989. There is a song called Machine Dream, and the guitar player Josh Christian just destroys it. And I remember reading an article back in the day that somebody was somebody, I think Metal Forces or Krang, was in the studio with them when they were recording it, and he had kind of an idea what he wanted his solo to be, and for whatever reason, it just was not working out. And he's just like, screw it, just roll tape and just play it off the top of his head. And my
Wow.
God, I wish I could play something like this off the top of my head, because it's insane. If you're into the fast shredding, sweep picking, all that stuff, he just crushes it. He just throws technique after technique after technique in there, and it's jaw dropping. You know, now you can watch any kid on YouTube do this kind of stuff, but this guy, not only did he do it in '89, but you also, he added a lot of variance to it. It wasn't just complete, mindless shredding and sweep picking. And what a phenomenal guitarist. Great album, great band. If you're into technical, music that would be thrashy, Toxic is an excellent pickup. Think this.
Awesome. I remember listening to them when we used to cruise in the 80s, and always wanted to pick up that CD. I don't know if it's the one that you're talking about, but I remember you had one in your car. Actually, I think it was a cassette,
Yeah.
and yeah, I always dug that cassette.
It's funny because I was at the Hillsdale Mall. I don't remember the name of the company, that that the record store, but they used to have these cassettes and they were selling for like $1, and they had a like I bought Toxic. I bought a few of them because I'm like, oh, they're cassettes. Who knows if they're gonna get eaten. I remember buying Realm. Was another thrash band. The Hitman debuts, and I mean, for $1, I'm like, let's grab these bad boys. So yeah. Hey,
Nice.
real quick
Very
before
cool.
we end this, I got a little shout out here because Sunday I'm gonna go see Brian Adams. So yes, I'll continue my '80s. But last night I saw Metal Allegiance perform in Anaheim. So wow, and they played a lot of '80s stuff. They played Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden. They played Damaged Incorporated. What else? They played Wrecking Crew by Overkill. They played The Preacher by Testament. And if you don't know who Metal Allegiance is, basically they bring every thrash metal artist out and they perform. So, but the drummer for most of the night was Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, so that was incredible to watch him, especially playing the thrashier stuff. Dave Elfson from Megadeth, or formerly of Megadeth, was the bass player for a lot of it. Alex Skolnick from Testament was the guitarist. The singers, they had John Bush from Anthrax and Armored Saint, um, Chuck Billy from Testament. They had Blitz from Overkill. Phil Demmel was one of the guitar players there. Andreas from Sepultura was one of the guitar players out there. It was crazy to see all this insane talent, and it's a very very cool night. But hearing John Bush sing some of these songs was amazing, and watching Portnoy just destroy his kit on this stuff. Like you don't see him do that with back in the day with Dream Theater or Winery Dogs, and playing that stuff was really incredible.
Super, super cool, John. And you actually got to chat a little bit with one of the guys from Armored Saint, right?
Yeah, it was funny because I was like debating what shirt I wanted to wear, and I don't usually, I never wear the artist that I'm going to see, but I'm like, okay, there's no, I'll wear an Armored Saint shirt. And I ran to Joey Vera, who's played with Armored Saint, Fate's Warning, King Diamond. And I was like, hey, Joey, I went up and talked to him. I said, why weren't you up there? He goes, I have nothing to do with the Metal Allegiance. I'm just here to support John. And I said, yeah, it's not like you don't have any projects going on. He goes, right. He goes, I do not want to learn any more songs. He goes, so it's kind of a relief. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I guess they'll be playing the House of Blues with Queensryche in March. He said that's going to be
Spectacular.
the opening of their tour, and I said, "Yep, I'll be there for that." So it was cool to see him. It's been, I didn't remind him that we met back when I was like a teenager, because I'm sure he's not going to remember that. Maybe if I explain the scenario, he'll remember that. But very cool to talk to him again.
Nice, nice. I'm glad you enjoyed that. It sounds like it was awesome.
It was a good time. So I think we're almost out of time here. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please let us know what underrated guitar solos you believe we should have covered. Love to hear about them. Maybe there's things that we haven't checked out, like a Heart song that we're still not sure which Heart song it actually is. But we'll be back soon. I think we're going to take another week off because Lou, you're going to come visit LA. We're going to do some late stuff for your belated birthday. Going to go see Soto Beeler, which is
There you
always a good
go.
time. Can't go
Yes.
wrong with that. And always, guys, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Lewis, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Thank you, guys.